Hello, and welcome to another walkthrough for Django for Everybody. In this walkthrough, we are going to do the basic installation of Django 5.2 on PythonAnywhere and install our first application. So it's a bit of a long assignment. Take your time. Make sure if you encounter problems that you sort of stop at that point and get some help. So this is the installation for Django 5.2. So over time, this course uses the various versions of Django to make sure we're working with a good version. After a while, they mark them as obsolete. Interestingly, since Django 3, there hasn't been too many changes. So you might see videos that even say Django 3, 3.4.0, 4.2. It's okay. Just when the instructions, like these instructions, are telling you to use Django 5.2, use Django 5.2, and don't be concerned if I'm explaining some Django feature and happen to be doing it in a Django 4.0 virtual environment. So you can do almost any version of this course, any version of Django, but we want you to be using the most up-to-date. Okay, so before you started, you need to have a PythonAnywhere account and be logged in. And here's a PythonAnywhere account. This is my CSEV one. It's kind of an empty one that I use to wipe it out and start over and over again so I can show you how to install all this stuff. Okay, and so I'll just point out that PythonAnywhere is free and it stays free forever. You have to extend it every 3 months and they'll send you an email. So I'm going to extend this, right? And so now it's September 16th, 2025. And so it's free. And we've had really good experience with PythonAnywhere and these free accounts. You're welcome to use them forever. You have a real live URL. And when you first set it up, it's kind of got some hello world stuff in there, but we're going to replace all that. Okay, so this is like a brand. There's no files in this. We don't have any, haven't set files up, etc., etc., etc. So let's go back to our install. So we're going to start a bash shell or a console. So let's go into the consoles and let's start a bash shell. So a big part of this course, and we actually have some instruction on it, is learning the Linux environment. This is everything that's done on servers in the modern era is all Linux. So Linux commands like pwd, print working directory. Home is my home folder. This is a multi-user system, so your home folder will be different. ls is what are the files, and there are very few files. If I take a look temporarily, let me go here. I always like to have a lot of new windows. Click. Open the Files tab in PythonAnywhere. You see there's these dot files. These are hidden files. So these are hidden files, and that's why they're dots. If I want to see those files, I can type ls, come back, ls minus la. Okay, and so these are sort of the files that are there, and away we can go. And so this is in it. So you'll see the first thing you want to do is you want to check to see if you have already done this. So don't do this twice. Although at the very bottom it shows you how to start over. So the virtual environment is a way to ensure that you have a particular Python and Django version. And so right now, if you look at our prompt, there is no like indicator that we have a virtual environment. And so this part here is just checking, right? And if you see this $ prompt with it, that probably means you have a virtual environment and you're already set up and you can go skip down to this sample code. Now, if you're coming from an earlier version of the course, you might see Django 4.2. And let's just see for now if we've got Django, so that means you're in a 4.2 environment. And let's just see if I have already installed the 5.2 virtual environment by typing source VE, and it says no such file or directory, which means I have not installed it. Okay, otherwise it will change the prompt. Okay, and so this is brand new, so we're going to have to install a Django 5 virtual environment. So let's go into our home directory. CD tilde always goes into home directory. Tilde's that little squiggly line. You're going to use that. Deactivate, I'm just telling you to run this in case you're in a virtual environment. You do not want to create a virtual environment if you're already in a virtual environment. So deactivate is the universal command to get out of one. I didn't have one. Deactivate did not do anything. So it says deactivate command not found. So let's I'm already in my home directory, but let's just do what it says. Go into home directory, and then we're going to make a virtual environment. And this is a name, and you'll see that it's going to create a little file that's hidden. So let's run it. So these can take a little bit of time because they read and write disk. In PythonAnywhere, probably the slowest part of it is the disk drive because it uses a network-based disk system, and so it might take a little while. So that didn't take too long, just a few seconds. Okay. And then we're going to activate that. If we go over here and we take a look at our home directory or refresh this page, you'll see there's a VE52. If you want, you can take a look at the files. Those are the files that are set up. Now to activate that virtual environment, oops, I typed the wrong command there. To activate the virtual environment, it tells you to say source VE52. And now you see I'm in a virtual environment, right? That's what it's saying. It's the virtual environment for 5.2. If you don't see this, then you'll be like, oh, and then go run this command. And now we want to see what Python version we get here. What Python? So we're Python 3.13, which is good. We just need at least Python 3.1. And then to eliminate a little complaint, we just say pip install upgrade pip. And so pip is the Python install program, and it adds things for you. And so we're just upgrading pip itself. So pip is a tool. So now we've got the latest pip, and now we're going to install Django 5.2. This may take a little while because again, it's writing a lot of disk. Reading disk is easier than writing disk. Okay, so that took about a minute. And so now we can check which Django version we have. And then this is kind of like the thing that we did. So we got version 5.2. So we have a virtual environment with the right Python version and the right Django version. Virtual environments are super. So we're already in the virtual environment. Let me show you something. I'm going to start a new console. Boop. Click. Consoles, open a new tab. So if we go into a new console and we look at the prompt, you'll see that you're not in the virtual environment. But then you have to run this source, and then for the remainder of this console, you'll have the right Python version and the right Django version. So I'm going to get rid of this second console, get rid of the second one, and go back to my first one. So continuing down on the list. So it's really tiring to have to do this activate thing over and over and over again. So we're going to one-time fix this, and we're going to go into the file .bashrc. And we're going to go down to the bottom, and we're going to grab these two lines, auto switch into the Django virtual environment. Now the bashrc, bash is the user interface that we're using. This console right here, this thing here is called bash. That's called a shell. And so this is the configuration file that tells bash how to behave. So we're going to save it. And now to make it effect, I'm going to close this console right here. Just close it, kaboom, and add and make a new console. And so what you're going to see is that it actually runs this bashrc every time you do a new console. Here we go. Come on. And it starts out in the virtual environment. So all you have to do is do these two lines once, and away you go. And so now let me go back into the consoles. Let me get rid of I think that was the one that was old. Let's go back into this console. Yeah. So now every time you log in or start a new console, you are going to be in the correct virtual environment, okay? So you see, you'll get all this stuff. Okay, so for this course, I have a ton of sample code, okay? So we're gonna check this out and run some sample code. And this sample code, I'm going to home directory. I was already there. You can always tell where you're at, pwd. I was already there, but I'm gonna run the get command to pull some code out of GitHub. And this is the samples that I use to build the lectures. The lectures go through these samples, and I want you to have access. You won't be modifying these samples. But now if you take a look at your files, you see there's DJ free samples, and then there's tons and tons of stuff. Like when we get to the autos assignment here, I got some sample code for autos. So you'll look at this code, and I go through this code for many of the lectures just are walking through and talking about all this sample code. But now you have complete copies of that sample code. So now we're going to go into that newly created folder. If we go into our files, home CSEV, you see in addition to virtually NVs, I have a DJ free samples. So now I'm going to go into that folder, CD DJ free samples. Now this is a git command to make sure that you're on the 5.2 version of this. And so this is, now you've got the 5.2 version of my samples. My samples have versions. If you're using Django 4.2, or maybe someday 6.2, you might have to switch to a different branch. And I'll update the instructions when that time comes. And then what we use is pip, the Python install program, to install all of the requirements. I'll show you this file in a second. We're going to start this thing because it takes a long time. Pip install -r requirements 5.2.txt. So I'll show you what's in here. DJ free samples, requirements 5.2.txt. This is a whole bunch of code that is and libraries that we're going to use throughout the semester. Okay, and so this is going to take a while. Okay, so that's finished now, and let's see how long that took. That took a whole bunch of stuff installed. There we go, from 50 through 52, 2 minutes, took 2 minutes. These are the slowest parts. And when a bunch of students are starting at the same time, this is actually slower. So, so be patient, let these things finish. And so now we're going to actually run our first Django command. And this is a command that you're going to use a lot. I'm already in this folder, but now I'm in the folder again. Python manage PyCheck. This is a way to make sure that all your requirements, this is a big Django application, DJ free samples, and this loads it all up and checks to see if all the libraries are properly loaded. If something goes wrong, okay, if something goes wrong here, you'll get a trace back. Now, if you get something going wrong here, and it shouldn't, right? You just grabbed my stuff and hopefully it's fine and I didn't break it. But if something goes wrong here, you should stop and try to figure it out. Okay, and I've got some error recordings as to how to solve some of the errors, but let's just continue here. So this is the correct output, and that is indeed the output that we're seeing right here. If you get an error, in the old days, if you don't have your virtual environment set up right, this will blow up, okay? But the most common thing is your virtual environment is not running, and instead of running Python 3, you're running Python 2. It makes it look like your manage.py has a syntax error. Never edit that file. If you do, come back right here and get a copy of that file, okay? So eventually, check should work right away. Then you do a thing called make migrations. This has to do with setting up the database, because Django has got a database and it stores all of its data into a database. And so these migrations, now these migrations have already been done in GitHub. So it says no change detection, that's fine. And then we're going to do a migrate. And these read the migrations and create a database. Python manage PyMigrate. So these are a bunch of Django and my instructions on how to create databases. And it's putting a whole bunch of stuff in here, right? And so it's creating all these databases. This is just the databases this sample code needs to run. And there's lots of applications in the sample code. And the fact that this is running is really good. It means your configuration is right, you got a database, and it's running just fine, okay? So that is the samples. And that also installs a whole bunch of prerequisite stuff that you're going to need. So now we're going to actually build the polls application, okay? And so we're going to start this folder. Now we're going to let's take a look at our files just for a second. Okay, we got these DJ free samples folder that we made, the virtual environment folder. We're going to make another folder. Oops, cd tilde to go into our home directory and make our Django projects. So in your top level home directory, there is going to be a folder. Hit reload on this, Django projects. Right now it's empty. There's nothing in it, okay? And we're going to have several Django projects throughout the semester. The first one that we're going to create is the one called My Site. And we're following some the instructions of the Django project.org first. So we got to go into Django projects now. So this is, yeah. You want to run this inside the Django projects folder. I find students type this command without typing that command, and then they end up with 2 copies of this My Site folder, and then I have to go fix it. But here we are in Django projects, and I type start project My Site, and that's going to create a Django project which has multiple applications in it. So now if we take a look and reload here, you see there's a folder called My Site, and it's in the Django projects folder. Okay, and there's a whole bunch of stuff in here. So the My Site has this manage.py and a folder called My Site, and this is all the configuration of your application. And so you'll hear me say way too often, go into your My Site folder. The fact later we'll rename this folder, but the default is to call it, My Site. Okay. So now we have a project. Don't do this twice. And it talks here about the start project created a bunch of files for you. And it talks, just read this here, My Site settings, My Site urls.py. So now it's telling you something to do here. So let's go to My Site, Django projects, My Site settings.py. So you're going to find this. Django projects, My Site settings.py. And let's see if it's still around. Oh, it is around line 28 still. It can change. And so we're going to grab this line and we're going to replace that line. And I just added an indentation error. That would be bad. Oops, not that. This is a Python, so the syntax, this is actually a Python file, so syntax is bad. Actually, let me make that mistake. I was pasting it wrong, and I made a mistake, and I'm going to save it. I'm going to show you what goes wrong here. This space right there, it just messed me up. And what you do is you type Python manage py check. Oh wait, we got to go into My Site. cd My Site. Python manage py check. Kablooey. This is a lot of tracebacks. You'll see these over the semester, but you got to learn how to read them. See, it says right here, line 28, allowed host unexpected indent. Now, I saw it when I was typing it, but I kept it in. You'll notice that the editor is telling me there's a syntax error here. So I'm going to get rid of this indent, and I'm going to save it, and then I'm going to ask again to run a check. That checks if the configuration is right, if the settings are right, etc., etc., etc. And so that's nice. That's good. You can run check all the time. Just a little note, it says here, leave debug true, otherwise you're not going to get detailed errors when you see them. Production sites, you'll turn that debug off, but not for developer sites. Okay, so let's continue. So running your application. So now as you read Django documentation, it'll tell you to run your code, and by saying Python manage py run server. And everyone on PythonAnywhere gets all freaked out because it doesn't work. It blows up. Well, let's run Python manage py migrate. Hang on, I'll come back to run server in a second. Python manage py run server is going to blow up. I'm going off script here, so there you go. Python manage py run server is going to blow up. Okay, so we never do that. We do Python, we do, watch, I'm hitting the up arrow and I can run a command before and then edit it. Python manage py check is what we do instead. But at some point we got to run your server, and that's where we're at in this document. Instead of using run server, we're going to use the web tab. Now this web tab is something you're just going to have to set up once. Okay, and so we're going to add a web app, and we're going to use C7. Your account is free. This is the free, and we're just going to say next. We're going to do manual configuration. And oh shoot, we got to figure out what Python version we're running. Python in our virtual environment version 313. Okay, so I got to tell it, I got to match that 313. Okay, so I picked manual configuration, and we're going to go next. And this is going to set up our web application. Again, you only have to do this once. Okay, here we go. So now we have a few other things that we have to do. We have to set the source code to our home directory. Now, don't put Dr. Chuck in there. Put whatever your account is. And then I got to change this path, the source code path. And don't use Dr. Chuck here. Use CSEV. Here's your account. And then the next thing it tells you to do is to set the virtual environment. And the virtual environment is home CSEV, your account, VE52. That's just a file folder. Okay, and so that's good. It would complain if the Python version didn't match it. You can kind of get this fixed and then hit reload on this page, and it will recheck that your virtual environment Python and your application version Python version are the same. Then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to edit this WSGI configuration file. Oops, I keep going to the wrong thing. This is basically our contract with PythonAnywhere and our application as to how to start it. This is a big crazy thing that I'm going to select it all and delete it and replace it with this bit right here. So you just replace it. Again, we're only going to do this once, and then you save it. And you go back to the web tab. And then what does it tell us? Okay, once the configuration is complete, go to the top of the PythonAnywhere web tab, reload your application, reload the application. This is like run server. This is basically reading all of the code you just installed, all the configuration on this tab, etc., etc., etc. And then we're going to see my account, and it's right here. So I'm going to open this in a new window, open a new tab, and there you go. So that's great. The install worked successfully. We have Django 5.2, and it is happy. Okay, so that part is good. So let's continue on. So again, don't ever run server. What we just did, hitting the reload button, is the same as running run server. It may blow up, but that's the same as run server. And it'll be all upset here. Okay, so now we're going to do what's called the first Django tutorial. So this is writing your first application. And I used to just give you instructions on do this, but people got a little confused. So I'm going to show you the first Django tutorial in my instructions, and then we'll do the second Django tutorial with their instructions. So now a Django project, let me go to my files, open a new tab. So we have Django projects, and this is the project folder, my site. Now we're going to add an application. So within home CSEV Django projects, my site, we are going to, in home Django projects, my site, we're going to, we'll CD to that. And then we are going to start an application. Projects can have many applications. You will have many applications in this my site folder. Okay, so now if we go back and look at the files again, we take a look in the my site, and there's both the my site folder, which has that configuration that we've already edited, and then the polls application, which is a skeleton application. So there's my site, and my site polls. And it read through this, it describes this. So we're going to write a view in the my site polls views.py. So let's go into polls, views.py. It says add your views. So we're just going to grab this little bit here, and we're going to put it in here and save it. Okay, so that's polls views, and then we're going to go and create a file called mysitepolls_urls.py. Make sure you're in the right place. So we're going to go in the polls folder and we're create a new file, urls.py. Now make sure you don't put any spaces in here or weird characters. So we're going to make a new file, and in that file we are going to paste this little bit right here. We're going to save that. So now we look at polls. We have edited the views.py and we have created the urls.py. Continuing back with the instructions. Now we're going to go into the mysite and insert a line. So when we make a new application, we have to put something in it, but then we have to go into the project configuration. So we're going to go into mysite_urls.py, and we're just going to replace it with this contents right here. Just delete it all, put this stuff in, and then we're going to save that. Then it talks about this. So now what we're going to do is we're going to check to see if those changes that we've made are working, because we could make a mistake in them. So let's go into mysite and run python manage pycheck. So it's nice to do this in this shell and see if there's nothing wrong, because then we go over here and we reload our application, we have a better chance of it actually working. So this is what it was before, but now we have a new version of this. I'll close that. And we go to c7pythonanywhere.com. And so now it changed. I'll open that in a new tab. Open a new tab. Now it changed. That's okay. If you look at those urls.py, we routed a polls URL and an admin URL. And we'll be adding stuff to this. So this fact that this page is not 404 not found, it's okay, right? See, that's what it says. You're going to get a page that looks like this. And so now we can go to that polls application, and so there we are at the polls index. And I believe that we're at this point done. We have finished. And if you really get all messed up, you can start over. Just go do these commands and then go all the way back up to the top and then start over. I hope this helps. I hope that this was useful to you and you can get started with your Django 5.2. Cheers.